Behind the Line Extra for your Saturday, September 21st, 2019. I'm your host, KC. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Give that 5-star rating on iTunes or whichever other platform you're listening on. I've been on a bit of a nostalgia kick so far this weekend. Went out for a while last night, came home, and the documentary about the 1992 NBA Dream Team was on. I was too young at the time to understand the greatness of that team, how special the summer of 1992 was. 11 Hall of Fame players on one roster. That will never happen again. Guys like Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, all these guys playing together, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, who was the star that summer on the 92 Olympic team. Then this morning, I watched a Football Life on the NFL Network about Tony Gonzalez. Best tight end to ever play the game. All-time great. Even better man. High character, inspiring dude. I really like his mantra, which is something along the lines of the greatest things in life are on the other side of fear. He's absolutely right. So many of us limit our potential because of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, fear of what other people will think about us. I've been guilty of it. We all have. I eventually got to a point where I just quit caring about what other people thought about me because it doesn't matter. I actually had a podcast back in 2011, 2012. I did it with a buddy of mine. It was on Blog Talk Radio. This was before podcasting was what it is now, where you've got something like 660,000 podcasts out there. Back then, you didn't have nearly that number. We built up a great following. Ended up having about 50 to 75,000 listeners every week. But I was too young at the time to really capitalize on it. My ego really got in the way. Fear of what other people thought about me got in my head. We had a pretty good show to be in our mid-20s, but I never really put my all into it for a variety of reasons. This time around, I decided to do it on my own, and nothing is going to stop me. I say all that because it really aggravates me when people achieve high levels of success and they find a way to fuck it up. You know, you work hard day and night. You get to the top of your profession and you ruin it for yourself. You become your own worst enemy. Now, everybody makes mistakes, but to me, it's how you overcome your mistakes, learn from them, rectify whatever situation that you're in that determines your character. Antonio Brown has made a litany of mistakes this offseason. We've covered it extensively here on this show. I actually defended this fucking guy when the sexual assault allegations were released a week or two ago. I used to have a lot of respect for Antonio Brown. Him and Big Ben were the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the NFL for 7-8 years. They were unstoppable. You could not stop them. But how this guy was given a gift-wrapped opportunity to play for the best organization in sports in the New England Patriots and found a way to fuck it up in a matter of 7 to 10 days is absolutely dumbfounding to me. You've got about a 0.1% chance to make it to the NFL. To become a player of Antonio Brown's caliber, you've got a 0.00001% chance of making that happen. It's difficult. You've got a better chance of hitting the fucking lottery than you do of becoming the next Antonio Brown. So when I hear about this guy texting the woman who's accusing him of sexual assault and threatening her, it really pisses me off. This isn't old text from years ago either, even though those did happen as well. This happened 4 or 5 days ago, Monday, after the Patriots had beaten the Dolphins, after Antonio Brown looked good in his debut in New England, after he had been warned before signing his contract not to embarrass the team, after he forced his way out of Oakland for a myriad of bullshit reasons. It was giving a lifeline by Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady to resurrect his image. This guy has learned absolutely nothing. He thinks that he is above the rules. He thinks that he is untouchable. And that got him out of this league. I'm done with Antonio Brown. Finished. He doesn't belong in the NFL. I hope no other team gives this guy a chance. I don't know if the allegations against him are true. We might not ever know. The league is investigating it. But based off of his character alone and how he has dealt with everything this offseason, and even going into last year in Pittsburgh, he just doesn't belong in the NFL. I hope this is the last time I talk about him. All right, we've got a big weekend of NFL football ahead of us. Several marquee matchups. It's going to be a great Sunday tomorrow. College football today is going to be good. I've got a lot to do today, so I'm not going to cover any more news stories. Let's go ahead and get right into the NFL picks for the weekend. Kind of crossing my fingers here after last weekend where my picks were just god-awful. So here we go. First game, Ravens at Chiefs. Current line, Kansas City, -5.5. Matchup of the future quarterbacks of the NFL with Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. This could be the next generation's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning rivalry. There's no need to go over the offensive stats for these guys. We all know how versatile both of these quarterbacks are. Mahomes looks to be repeating his MVP season from last year, but I've been really impressed with the growth of Lamar Jackson over the offseason. Jackson has improved greatly in the pocket. Last year, he seemed a bit hesitant, preferred to run instead of pass. That's no longer the case. The dude has been lethal throwing the ball this year, and he's still finding a way to run for over 100 yards. He's the definition of a dual-threat quarterback. This game to me is more about defense. Both offenses are going to put up points, but which defense will be able to get a stop when it matters? The obvious answer to me is Baltimore. Once again, Baltimore packs a strong running game with one of the better defensive units in the NFL. As I've said before, running game and defense travel on the road. The Ravens haven't given up over 17 points in a game this season. Now, I realize one of those games was against the Dolphins, the other against Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. But when was the last time a Ravens team didn't have an elite level defense? I think the Baltimore defense is the difference in this game. On the flip side of that, I still feel like the Chiefs defense is the weakness on this team. Now, obviously, with Patrick Mahomes and a high-powered offense, kind of hard for the defense, to keep up. But like Baltimore, this will be their first true test of the season defensively. This defensive unit was one of the worst in the NFL last year. The Chiefs are built to play with a lead and want to play you in a shootout. That's not the Baltimore Ravens game. They're going to pound this Kansas City front seven, let Lamar Jackson burn them with play action or the run-pass option. Not sure the Ravens are going to be able to win here. Arrowhead is one of the toughest places to play in the NFL when you're on the road. However, I do like them with the points. I think this is a close game, possibly coming down to the last possession. This line opened up at Kansas City -6.5, then bet down to 5.5. Going to take the points here, taking Baltimore plus 5.5. Next, Falcons at Colts. Current line, Indianapolis -1. I'm not going to lie. I've been impressed with the Colts thus far this season. I thought they were going to struggle without Andrew Luck. They're not as explosive offensively, but Jacoby Brissett is beginning to come into form. And this team has one of the best offensive lines in the league, with a second-rate rushing attack, and the defense has been stout through 2 games. I realize Brissett hasn't put up big numbers, but Indianapolis hasn't really needed it. They controlled the game last week against the Titans through their defense. And when Indy needed a comeback in week 1 on the road against the Chargers, Brissett in the running game led that comeback. The offense can score when they need to. More importantly, Jacoby Brissett doesn't turn over the ball, throwing 1 interception all year compared to 5 touchdowns. In my opinion, this is a prime letdown spot for the Falcons. Big win against Philadelphia last week, national TV, Sunday night game, in a game they really had no business winning. Matt Ryan and the Falcons are a different team on the road. They were 3-5 last season, and we all saw how they looked week 1 at Minnesota. Completely decimated by the Minnesota running game and Kirk Cousins. And the Vikings looked awful last week against Green Bay. Not only does Atlanta struggle on the road, they struggle against the AFC. Last 11 games against AFC opponents, the Falcons haven't covered against the spread not one time and are 1-10 straight up. This is the home opener for Indianapolis. I expect them to be up for this game. The Colts are 11-1 straight up their last 12 games as a favorite. I like them to cover and win here, taking Indianapolis -1. Next game, Lions and Eagles. Current line, Philadelphia -6. Don't look now, but the Detroit Lions are kind of flying under the radar this season. This is a surprisingly good football team. They should be 2-0 right now. Philadelphia is a tough team to beat at home. Carson Wentz is a different quarterback at home than he is on the road. Philadelphia is 6-3 straight up their last 9 games as a home favorite. Only 1-7-1 against the spread. I feel like we're getting a lot of value here with the Lions. Detroit's got a good defense. Yes, they give up a lot of yards. But once this defense gets you in the red zone, they clamp down. Really a bend but don't break type of defense. They gave up over 400 yards last week to Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. Only gave up 10 points. As we've seen through the first 2 weeks of this season, the Philadelphia offense starts off slow in the first half. Went down big to Washington in week 1 at home. Did the same thing last week in their loss to Atlanta. Matter of fact, Philadelphia's last 8 September games, they're only averaging 6.6 points in the first half. This team digs themselves in a hole early, which makes it extremely difficult for them to cover as a favorite. I'm still not sold on this Lions team. Matt Stafford's kind of like an Eli Manning. You don't know whether or not you're going to get good Stafford or bad Stafford. He could throw for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns, or throw for 150 yards and 3 interceptions. You just don't know. But I feel like the Lions' defense is good enough to keep this game close. Eagles are 0-5 against their spread in their last 5 September games. Like we talked about, this team is a slow starter. This game actually opened up at Philadelphia -8. Been bet all the way down to 6. I'm taking the 3 points here, taking Detroit +6. Next game, Giants at Tampa Bay. Current line, Tampa -6. First start of his career for rookie quarterback Daniel Jones. After years of subpar play, the Giants have finally decided to put us out of our misery and bench Eli Manning. Usually I'd fade a rookie quarterback in his first start, but I really like the Giants here. First of all, I feel like this team is really behind Daniel Jones. Jones looked great in the preseason, completed 85% of his passes. More importantly, I think the Giants are going to be fired up for this game and really try to get the kid his first win in the NFL. We all know Saquon Barkley is one of the best running backs in the league. But Tampa Bay's defense, especially their run defense, is no joke. They completely shut down Christian McCaffrey and Cam Newton last week on the road. I know the Giants' defense has looked poor thus far, but I think a lot of that has to do with how poorly the offense has played. They hung with a high-powered Dallas offense until the second half in week 1. I feel like they tire out from being on the field so much because Eli Manning couldn't move the ball downfield. This Giants defense has forced 7 3-and-outs on 22 possessions this season. That's 3rd in the NFL. Also, I just cannot bet Jameis Winston as almost a touchdown favorite. He lost the game against San Francisco at home in week 1 pretty much by himself with some of the worst quarterback play you'll ever see. He got out of his own way last week at Carolina, but that one win isn't changing my mind about Jameis Winston. I feel like he's playing on borrowed time right now in Tampa. Giants have got to get Saquon Barkley going early, and I think head coach Pat Shurmur will kind of ease Daniel Jones into the game with short, easy completions, build up his confidence. I feel like this is a motivated Giants team right now with a new lease on life with Jones coming in as the starter. Taking the points here, taking the Giants +6. Last game, Steelers at 49ers. Current line, San Francisco -6.5. San Francisco is the worst 2-0 team in the league right now, in my opinion. Going into that game last week, there were a lot of rumors going around about the future of Jimmy Garoppolo. He absolutely destroyed an abysmal Cincinnati defense and blew out Andy Dalton and the Bengals. Turned them back into the Bungles. Their other win came against Tampa Bay. You all know how I feel about Jameis Winston. Not impressed by that. I was, however, impressed with Mason Rudolph last week. Came in mid-game after Big Ben was injured. I thought he played well. Completed 63% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, had about 112 yards. I feel like this spread is a bit of an overreaction here. If Big Ben were starting, this line would be around 2 to 3 points. This line opened up once Mason Rudolph was named starter at San Francisco -7. So you're telling me the 49ers are a touchdown better than the Steelers? I don't think so. The Steelers got plenty of pressure early on last week against Russell Wilson. And I think the pass rush will be able to get to Jimmy G on Sunday. 49ers lost starting left tackle Joe Staley last week with a broken fibula. And in his place, they're starting rookie Justin Skule. I hope I pronounced his name right. He's going to be seeing a steady dose of TJ Watt in his face all afternoon tomorrow. The 49ers run defense has been great so far. And let's be honest, James Conner has not looked like the same running back that we saw in 2018. However, he really hasn't been getting touches. The Steelers were way behind in week 1 in New England. And last week, he only got 16 touches against Seattle. With Rudolph under center, Tomlin and the Steelers will be relying heavily on Conner to carry more of the offensive load. He isn't a guy that can be effective with limited touches. He's kind of like a Mark Ingram. The more touches he gets better, he gets into a rhythm, and as the game goes on, they really get going. I think Conner has a big game tomorrow. Feel like the Steelers are going to keep this one close. I love underdogs in a game like this. You've got a San Francisco team riding high after a blowout at the Bengals, starting 2-0 on the year. And you have a reeling Steelers team coming in after 2 big losses and losing their franchise quarterback to injury. I feel like Pittsburgh's the hungrier team here. And you got head coach Mike Tomlin, in my opinion, coaching for his job every week. Give me the points here. Going to take Pittsburgh +6.5. So just to recap, we're heavy on the dogs this week. Going with Baltimore +5.5, Indy -1. Taking the Steelers +6.5, the Giants +6, Detroit +6. Really like the picks this week. We're on a bounce-back weekend here after having a pitiful showing last week in the NFL. College, we haven't been that bad, about 500 on the year. So, bounce-back weekend here for the show. I'm out of here, guys. Have a busy day today full of football and beer. I'll be back Tuesday with the good, the bad, and the ugly for the weekend. Follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Give that 5-star rating on iTunes. Do the same on SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, whichever platform you're listening on. Leave a comment in the section below. Share your NFL picks with us. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday.